guess we'll go ahead and get started. Just welcome everybody, whether you're at home or in your office. Glad to have you here. And for Birmingham, AAF Birmingham for our monthly luncheon. I want to thank our sponsors, of course, Vulcan Park and Museum, where we normally would have our in-person meetings, Lewis Communications, Encompass Health, Walker 360, Flash Bar, Birmingham Now, and Huddled Masses. So thank you for them. And if you know a company or your company would like to become a sponsor, just please contact me or any board member and we'll get you all set up. Our sponsors are very important to us and we give them lots of love all year long. And at our Addy Awards and our 10 awards and events and meetings, you will always be mentioned. So we love having a good team up with a sponsor. So please keep that in mind. And just a reminder, our board meetings are the second Wednesday. Our board meetings are the second Wednesday of the month. So if you have anything that you would like to kind of throw our way to discuss in our board meeting, please, again, just let one of us know. And we will be sure and address that in our board meeting. Also a reminder that these meetings that we're in right now for the members and guests, they are the fourth Wednesday of every month. So just put those on the calendar from here on out. We will be having some networking opportunities coming up. We talked about that in our last board retreat. So we're going to be doing a little bit of switcheroos going on to make things kind of interesting but while still saying informative, but making it a little bit more fun through this Zoom platform. So just be on the lookout for that. Also, 10 awards nominations are ready to go, open for everyone to send their nominations in. They are due September the 12th. And again, these are for those unsung heroes in the background of all the advertising that we do here in Birmingham. This is a really special event because this is our own Birmingham event. We created this here and we have special trophies made for it and a special presentation made for it. And so these individuals really deserve a lot of applause. So we hope that you will join us for the 10 awards. That's going to be a Zoom event Wednesday, September 23rd at 6 p.m. We will be doing our first awards event on virtual. And so that'll be interesting. So I hope you'll join us, but please get those nominations in so we can select some great people for that. Let's see. Hey, Jake, can you turn that, or can y'all turn the screen share off just for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I think we covered up.
Can you share your screen? Currently?
No, I had something, there we go. Thank you. That's perfect. Just leave it perfect right there. Okay. Let's see where we go next. Oh yes. Okay. The Addy Awards. We did talk about the Addy Awards at our last, at our board retreat. We had so much good input during the retreat. Like I mentioned in our last meeting, the Addy Awards have a lot of pre-planning. We have to get judges in. We have to reserve hotels. We just have a lot going on for that. And so we talked about it in our board meeting. And right now we're looking at doing a virtual Addy Awards and doing lots of research and planning to make it over the top, fantastic, with a lot of exciting things that would be developed within it. Christina Frantum, who's our Addy Award chair, she is going to be, she's already on it. She's already researching, doing things on how we can make this an exciting event amid COVID. You know, our future is still uncertain at this point. So just to prepare and be safe in many ways, we're going to go ahead and look at virtual right now. So just wanted to let you know that if anybody has any kind of input on ideas or thoughts for that, please let me anybody on the board, me or Christina, know. We'll get your information in and give it some thought and serious consideration. Also, membership, I've got just a few little areas to go over. Again, when we had our board retreat, had some great information. Our membership chair, Haley Yeager, she just wanted to mention a little bit about what our membership does for our members. It ensures you a national network of advertising professionals, not limited to Birmingham ad professionals. Whether you're new in town, looking to connect, or you're a Birmingham native, looking to meet new people, AAF Birmingham is where you can connect to people who are like-minded professionals and grow your web connection. So if you need any more information on any of that, Haley Yeager, again, she's our Vice President of Membership. You can contact her at membership@aafbirmingham.com. So again, our dues are coming up. You should have been invoiced. Dues are coming up. I've paid mine. So I hope everybody will take care of that so we can continue with some of the great things we have planned for the year. And then next, social media. We have our communications director, Kennedy Webster. We have been, I hope you've noticed, we have been doing some enhancements to social media, and I'll pass that off to Kennedy and let her say a couple of words about it.
Hey everyone, can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, sorry. I'm Kennedy. I'm the communications director for the upcoming year for AAF Birmingham, and I'm really excited about my role. Just really excited to get some momentum going on our social media, and like Lisa said, we really hope that you've noticed that we're trying to really boost our engagement, not only with our members, but just for the community in general. We do have some very exciting things in the works, including a September series that we really want you to be on the lookout for, where we'll be highlighting some unique opportunities for either conferences, webinars, or other continued education opportunities that are out there available and relevant to people in our field. So another thing I wanted to mention is that we've also created a post request form, and Haley Yeager, our membership VP, will be dropping that in the chat box below. But this is just a place where you can share job listings, webinars, other company news, and it's just as an added bonus to your membership, just to gain exposure and also for us to, kind of know what's going on with our members, and so we can get it out there to the community. But I'm really excited about the upcoming year, and I hope everyone enjoys this awesome luncheon that's been prepared.
Yeah, and also I would like to mention just LinkedIn. If you haven't followed AAF Birmingham, I think it's been kind of silent, but we do have a LinkedIn account. So please follow us and comment, and we're going to get that one rolling again. So I just want to let everybody know that too. So thanks, Kennedy. All right, Adelie Matt, who is our Director of Special Events and Fundraising, she has been busy brainstorming and had some great ideas for our board retreat, so I'll let her have a couple of words. Adelie?
Hi. Yes, so I've come up with the idea to have a virtual illustration off. So what we would do is take all of the reach out to all of the different agencies in town and any illustrators or graphic designers or freelancers, and they would all come on a virtual illustration, not necessarily competition, but more of like an exhibition, just a place where they could showcase their talents and stuff like that. So they would come on and we'd have a topic, and they'd have an hour to design or draw out something and create something, and then we would share all of that on social media, or just screen share and let people show everyone what they've designed.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. And so Adelaide will be busy on that, and she's also has ideas in the works for spring, and hopefully we'll be in person for those, but some really fun things coming your way. So thank you, Adelaide. Okay, and for student affairs, Dan Hahn, who's under the weather today, he is at the doctor, so we'll be sending him some good vibes. He had a couple of really exciting things to share with you, so I get to have the honor to do that. Of course, one of them is we have a mentoring program in our student affairs that Dan started last year. And if you are interested in mentoring any of the wonderful students that we have in the Birmingham area, we have, we've done UAB, Sanford, we're introducing Miles College into the mix, which we're really excited about that. And Birmingham Southern, we would love to add some from there. Any of the colleges, Montevallo, anyone around here, we would love to get students on board with mentoring with our professionals here. And, it is a win-win. You both get something out of it. So if you are interested in mentoring a student, please let Dan Hahn know. He is on our website under Board of Directors. You can reach him there. But another really great thing that he's going to be doing this year, we're going to be introducing a AAF Birmingham Junior Board with our students. And so this is going to be a big undertaking and something that we hope will really kick off this year with a bang, and then we'll continue on with the junior board for this area. So I'm really excited to announce that. So be looking to hear more about that. If you have interns in your agency or company right now, please put a little bug in their ear about it. I think it would be a great opportunity to help them grow professionally and for their career. So that one's coming to you as well. So with, as we can see, we have a lot going on, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So please keep coming to the meetings and watch us on Facebook, Instagram, and even LinkedIn, and keep up with everything great going on at AAF Birmingham. So right now, for our speaker of the month, we are really pleased to bring you Josh Greene from the Mather Group. And on the 10 Commandments of Online Reputation Management. And I will pass it off to our Director of Programs, Jake Smith, to let you know a little bit more about Josh.
Hey, everybody. This is Josh Greene. He works he is the CEO of the Mathers Group. And before this, he was the VP of Marketing at Zippy Shell and 1-800-PACK-RAT. He managed everything marketing related and even ran several national TV campaigns, which is pretty cool. And he's just here to give you some insight on your online presence, which is a big deal, and a lot of people seem to overlook it. So he's going to give you the 10 Commandments on that. So take it away, Josh.
Thanks, and thanks for having me. I'm excited to speak with the group today, and hopefully this can be very interactive and dig into some challenges or questions you may have on your specific challenges. So if you have questions and want to pop them into the chat as we go along, that works as well. Very quickly, the Mather Group is a 9-person company up here in Virginia, which works with everyone from nonprofits to big media companies to some startups. What we've seen lately is just people's online reputation today is really the first thing people see when they search for you on Google and what information they get. And right now that can be everything from paid ads to company web pages to Wikipedia to Glassdoor to Yelp reviews. So it's quite a challenge keeping an eye on everything that's going on. There are 4 major areas you'll see us highlight as we go through this. We've got the Google search results, we've got review sites, we've got Wikipedia pages, and we've got CEO search results. The first thing to cover is just the Google search results, and oftentimes you'll hear people refer to search engine optimization as the process of improving the results you're seeing for your company or organization in search. There are a number of different things that are going on anytime you see a results page. For example, in this company here, a service management company in the IT space, you've got this Google Knowledge Panel, which is all the official information Google has about you. Just as a tip, if you see this Claim This Knowledge panel below your company, it's definitely worth doing. It gives you a lot of control over what's showing up in Google. Secondly, you'll see Google My Business down here. If you have a physical location or especially multiple physical locations, this can be very important because it lets you put a ton of information on about your hours or what you're offering, which certainly with everything going on is a lot more fluid than it might typically be. Here's the start of what are called the organic search results, and there's 6 site links here. This is what Google thinks are going to be the most likely pages within a particular website. And there's some ways to impact these as well if you think that something else should be here versus what Google has sort of guessed at being the best results for people to see. And then up here you have paid advertising, which also plays a really important role, because you can see that there's 6 lines of text that is pretty much controlled just by advertising, where the normal results for this company, Mobomo, Google's sort of guessing and pulling information from your website. This ad is letting you say exactly what you want to say about your company. One other interesting thing that you'll see on that sometimes, depending on how big the companies are that are involved, is people bidding on each other's trademarks. So right here, you might be familiar with HelloFresh. I've done it a couple of times where they deliver food and then you either attempt to cook it, or if you're actually good at it, make something. And what you see here is Home Chef is advertising on their trademark. So Home Chef is advertising on HelloFresh to try and take advantage of some of the brand equity that HelloFresh has built up by spending millions of dollars on advertising. Whether you think this is a good or a bad thing probably depends a little bit on your view on trademarks, and then probably whether you're the big company or the little company in this scenario. So SEO is the process of improving your online rankings, and there are 3 major factors that go into where you're ranking for different search terms. And I'll go through each of these right now. The first one is content. So that's what everyone thinks about when they think about search engines. It's, do you have content about what the topics are that you're ranking on? If you're a company that's focused on business processes, you probably have white papers on them, you probably have blogs, you probably have interviews on your site. In fact, I would guess for most companies, especially in the B2B space, there's probably a little bit more attention to put paid to content from an SEO standpoint than these other 2 factors than maybe there should be. And part of that is just there's so many tools out there that are being sold to help you make and manage content. And it's a little bit easier sometimes if you're in marketing or advertising to produce content than it is to do any of the next following things. So the content on your site, very important, and you're probably, based on my experience, in pretty good shape in terms of covering the area you focus on as a company. The next thing is essentially how strong your site is. And this plays a much bigger role than you would think. If you think about Amazon and Wikipedia, say, both of those are very strong sites. You'll almost always see Amazon and Wikipedia show up in the top 3 search results for a particular term if it's applicable. And if Wikipedia published a new page on a particular topic, it would almost immediately rank in the top 3 just because they're such a strong site. There's a metric known as domain authority, which is a scale from 0 to 100 in terms of how much weight Google gives a particular site. Amazon and Wikipedia are probably around a 99. A lot of bigger companies or universities are in the 50 to 60 range. Smaller local businesses might be from 20 to 40. So if you were trying to outrank Amazon or Wikipedia in particular search terms, you would need to have the other 2 factors really offsetting the fact that they're just such a strong site and Google sees them as an authority. And the third of those 3 is backlinks. What this means is the number of different sites that link back to your site essentially counts as votes in Google's eyes. So if you've gotten a lot of coverage in local and national papers, that's really going to boost your site up in the rankings for any keyword that might be there. So if you've gotten a lot of trade press, if you've gotten a lot of sponsorships or publicity where people are linking to your site, that's going to be seen as very, very useful content in the eyes of Google. There's this whole world of backlinking where people can pretend to link to you and not really be doing it. So it does very much have the high school feel to it sometimes in terms of this, but this is really often overlooked because it's a lot more challenging to do, asking sites to link to you or generating links to you as opposed to content sometimes. So if you start a new site with really great content, it's not going to rank unless you start doing these other couple of things, unless you've found a topic that no one else has ever created content about. And we can, in the Q&A, look at some sample Google searches and just look at what's influencing why particular terms have the rankings they do, which I think helps go through this a little bit. The fourth thing that tends to be really important when you're thinking about search engine optimization is the ability to fix your source code and control what's showing up in Google. And Lisa and I were chatting beforehand. I'm happy to send around the deck if that's useful to anyone as we're going through this. So if you do a Google search on the Mather group, you get our title and our description showing up. What's interesting about that is this is in the code of the website. So this is what's called a meta tag, and this is telling Google, here's the title of the page, here's the slogan, and that's showing up right in Google. So oftentimes if you see a company showing up in the Google search results with something like Company X Home, you can tell that they've never changed the default from whatever they set up the site with, because you can put in something that says your company's slogan or a nice message. And then the other interesting thing about this is there's a meta description, which is basically what the page is about. And about 50 or 60% of the time, Google will actually pull that right into your search results. So you're sort of defining your web page for anyone who's looking. So while I may be saying that the Mather Group is a boutique agency, if I want to impress my kids, I would put down that I was the founder of Paw Patrol, and for at least a little while, Google would carry that through into the description. The other thing in this mess of code down here is this OG for Open Graph and Twitter stuff. Basically, what that's doing is telling Twitter and Facebook, if someone's sharing this particular page, here's the information that you should share. So if you've ever seen something on Facebook shared and it's got like half an image or a broken image or the text makes no sense, that's just because this hasn't really been set in the back end of the website. So if you're using something like WordPress or Drupal, they're usually built-in things where you can set that for any page where you feel like you need to get this updated or have some ability to control it. So the knowledge graph that I had mentioned earlier was right here. And what you see for the Virginia Department of Transportation is you've got the definition of the company or organization, some budget information, some profiles, and some competitors. Not so much in the case of the Department of Transportation, but you can impact that quite a bit if you claim it. And if you claim it, you have to do this verification process that I'm sure some people are familiar with, that Google makes you go through, where you probably need your articles of incorporation, or if you're an individual, a driver's license, where they're making sure you're really the owner of the organization that's there. The next thing to take a look at is review sites, which really had started out as you know, essentially everyone got used to review sites from Yelp. And now there's a review site for just about every vertical that you could possibly find. You've got one for employee relations, you've got them for cars, you've got them for doctors. So almost regardless of what field you're in, even in SEO itself, there are companies that are sort of aggregating reviews and trying to become the definitive source in that field and then figure out a way to monetize it. So there are two major things that power reviews. The first is just doing good work in terms of whatever your organization does. If you're not doing work that people like, that's probably a bigger challenge than just reviews. And the second thing is asking for reviews in a way that's congruent with whatever system you're concerned about. This can lead you down a lot of rabbit holes. If you've ever seen an app you're using pop up and ask if you'd like to rate it from 1 to 5 stars, a lot of times if you say yes and give it 5 stars, they'll take you to the official iTunes review site where you can write a review and leave your 5-star review. Oftentimes, and it's a little tricky, if you give 1 to 4 stars, they'll take you to their own essentially private review site where it's an internal site for the company. You can write a review. They may maybe look at it and take action, but no other human being will ever see it, which is why you sometimes see apps that have hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews. And if you're wondering why no one has ever, left them a 1-star review, they may all have gotten directed somewhere else to do it. So depending on how much your business is based on reviews, there are a lot of different things that you can do to help your profile, and in many cases help your profile be a little bit more fair than what it might be. One thing that's always interesting, and these are both Yelp and Google, and most other sites have them, there's a way to flag reviews. So if there's something that's just completely unfair about the wrong business written by an ex-employee, you can flag it. And usually if you have 2 or 3 people in your organization that use Google reviews or Yelp, that can be enough to cause the review to get taken down or minimized, which can be useful, especially we've seen with B2B businesses, because there usually aren't a ton of reviews for them. Also, depending on what review site it is, there's usually some sort of protestation that there's a church and state rule and your advertising will not impact your reviews. I can just say from experience, we seem to have much better luck when we're a paying advertiser in terms of getting people to pay attention to us. So, take that for what it's worth. Every review site seems to have its own rules of the road when you're working on them. There are a couple different things that have been really useful for doing this. Amazon's Mechanical Turk and Fiverr are good for small tasks where you might be paying $1 or $2 for people doing small tasks just in great numbers. Maybe you need 100 people to check your reviews or something like that from different locations. And Upwork is really good if you're trying to hire, say, an expert for just a couple hours of work. This is where people tend to be higher paid, maybe $50 or $100 an hour. We've used it a number of times for very tricky technical problems where we might need a world-class Google Analytics person to fix some code. And rather than spend just a huge amount of time figuring it out, you can find someone who in an hour or 2 can sort of solve your problem. The third of those 4 things that play a big role are corporate Wikipedia pages. What happens with Wikipedia is it's not just usually in the top 3 results for a company, it's also powering a large chunk of this knowledge graph over here. So the first 2 lines of your Wikipedia page are essentially going to be a large part of your profile all the way through the internet. And one of the interesting things is because companies don't pay a ton of attention or don't know that they can impact their Wikipedia page, sometimes that description is really unhelpful. There was a company we talked to in Virginia, and it was basically Company X is a B2B company headquartered in Tysons Corner, Virginia, on the Dulles Corridor near the Dulles Airport near Route 28, which doesn't really say anything about the company itself, except if you wanted to drive there, it might be useful, versus saying something about what the company actually does and why it's a noteworthy sort of thing. So something to take a look at, both your company pages and then anywhere else you might show up in Wikipedia. I think that number is probably already dated in terms of 390 million unique views per day. And if you think about it, people just think of Wikipedia as an objective third-party resource. One other sort of tip for within Wikipedia, all Wikipedia articles have these 5 tabs across the top: the article itself, a talk page, read the page, edit, and view history. If you click on view history, in addition to seeing every edit that's ever been made on the page, you can, if you look down here, on this external tools thing, there's something called page views, and that will let you see how many views per day a particular Wikipedia page is getting. That's really helpful if you're trying to monitor your traffic or have internal conversations, just to be able to see, for example, here's IBM's page. They're getting 4,400 visits a day. So that's a channel they probably want to pay attention to, because that's stakeholders, potential employees, stockholders who are all hitting Wikipedia. And so you want to keep an eye on how the page is representing your company. So if you take a look at a page, we have here an info box is the name for this box over on the right that has sort of all of the key stats and information. So oftentimes you'll see, revenue, number of employees, when it was founded. So this one is filled out nicely. The table of contents is always a good place to look to sort of get a feel for the types of information that are available. So usually I'll keep an eye out to see if there's a controversy section, which is usually something you need to pay attention to. And then this is just sort of a strong page. You can see lots of information. You can see that there's a lot of content here for this page. And then one other thing that's very useful is, even if your company's not big enough to have its own Wikipedia page yet, there's usually category pages that are important. So for example, if I'm a company that's in the business process automation space, there's an opportunity to mention my company and put any thought leadership that we're doing out there as part of this page and get some recognition on the Wikipedia category page for this. So a lot of people will look at this as a starting point for information, and you can see right here that it's even pointing out that this article needs additional citations and help building out the page. So if you can help contribute to the Wikipedia community, you can also help get some additional visibility for your company, even without a Wikipedia page of your own. One other key thing with this is just looking at your pages to see if you have a lot of controversy on them. This is similar to review sites, that if you don't pay attention to it, the loudest grumbly people tend to set the narrative. When I was at Discovery, there was a very, very brief hostage situation once for about 20 minutes. It was resolved peacefully, and then for the next few years, the Discovery page had about this much information on a billion-dollar company and pages of information on the hostage guy and his manifesto and where he went to school, just because no one had ever gone through and broken it out into its own section. Same thing with the controversy section. Wikipedia is supposed to have a neutral tone to it, but the people who believe in a free, everyone contributes to it encyclopedia tend not to overlap with people who believe in businesses being treated fairly. So that's something to keep in mind as you're looking at Wikipedia pages. The fourth one of those things that I had mentioned was just your CEO search results and Wikipedia pages. Sort of in the greater cosmic scheme of things, these are perhaps not quite as important, but the last thing you really want to do is be getting this look from your CEO when they're looking at their own Wikipedia page and wondering what's going on with it, and you having some responsibility there. A lot of times if you search your CEO in Google, or you search a CEO who's a client in Google, you can usually tell whether they're going to be good or bad results. If you sort of cringe when you see them, that's usually a sign they're not great. Same thing with CEO Wikipedia pages. If they've got a page, does it read in a way that you think they're going to be concerned with? Or would they want one if they don't have one, is the other question that comes up frequently. And we actually do whole webinars on managing Wikipedia pages, which I'm happy to send a copy to if it's particularly on your radar. But if we look at the typical search results for a CEO, this is Jeff Bell, the CEO of Legal Shield. It's got some information on him, and the sort of thing that I think is kind of interesting here is he's referred to as a chief executive and as a marketing leader in air quotes, which I'm pretty sure is probably not how you want to be referred to as a marketing leader, but no one's ever really gone through and changed that and updated that, and that would be, you know, an easy fix for someone either working with Legal Shield or are concerned about it to help clean up. But you get your typical search results, and here's an example of positive results. This is Annie Young Scribner, the CEO of Godiva Chocolate. The top results are all sort of profiles of her. There's her Wikipedia page, there's her LinkedIn page, there's some board of directors that she's on for Tiffany's. So this is a really strong page, no negative results that you wouldn't want to be there. And then you've got a knowledge panel here, so she could claim that if she wanted to. And then here's her Wikipedia page showing up here. So that's, generally speaking, a very positive profile. CEOs often have pages about their salary or their net worth, or news stories that maybe aren't quite as favorable. But in her case, she does. And she also has a very nice Wikipedia page here with information on her sort of built out. And one other interesting thing about Wikipedia is even very famous people who have, I'm sure, lots of professional photographs of themselves have very informal iPhone looking photos, because Wikipedia is very concerned about copyright. And any pictures taken by a professional photographer are assumed to have copyrights associated with them. So a lot of times you'll see either something taken at a rights-free event, like something sponsored by a government, or just an informal photo that someone took with an iPhone, which is usually at odds with a very polished public persona. So if you see one of those, that's usually what's going on. And the other thing with SEO and CEO results is it can sort of work the other way. In addition to pushing up good results, it can sort of push down bad results if you're generating content or new search results that will help sort of push down some of the results that may not be favorites. And if you're, not managing these things, we've got here the CEO of United, who, after they had dragged someone off a plane, had his handling of it described as a sort of self-immolation that makes you wonder about his choice as CEO, which is a wonderful turn of phrase and very catchy, but really doesn't sort of fit into the neutral idea of Wikipedia. So that's the kind of thing that could be cleaned up a little bit, although I suspect he has much bigger problems at the moment to worry about. One other thing that I suspect will resonate with many of the people on the phone is just retargeting. While it's an advertising tool, can also be really good for reputation management, just because in the same way that you look at a watch on Amazon and it follows you everywhere you go, you can do the same thing with retargeting and show someone the message about the car you're selling or about Squarespace 10 to 30 times everywhere they go online, which can be really powerful just in terms of repetition. And if you're a company or an organization that's sort of either B2B or maybe not a ton of traffic, you can run a really powerful campaign like this, oftentimes for $5 to $10 a day. And those ads run just about everywhere that people go. So it really helps get your message out rather than hoping that they come back to your website or a Google search. And sort of finally, before we get into Q&A, there are a lot of free resources out there as you look at these. Moz.com, MOZ.com is really good at search engine optimization. They do a ton of free stuff out there. We run most of our business on their tools. So I highly recommend them. If you're interested in Wikipedia, Wikipedia itself has a ton of tutorials on how you can get started there. And oftentimes you can sort of experiment to see how these different platforms work. I would recommend avoiding sort of these snake oil miracle cures. People at Google do just as much reading of SEO and reputation management things. So if you've heard things like, let's put that keyword in 35 times or just buy a million links, most of those strategies are not going to work at this point in time. So as you're thinking about reputation, knowing who's going to manage things, especially if anything sort of rises up to the crisis level, is very important. And then really the ninth of those 10 commandments is oftentimes guidelines versus rules can be really different between every platform. Sometimes you have to experiment a little bit to see what will be helpful. Sometimes review platforms want employees to be involved. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they let you solicit paid reviews. Sometimes they don't. So depending on how involved reviews are in your business, that can play a big role. And finally, sometimes as you're thinking about this, if you're able to get the word out into major media, be it press, TV, newspapers, all of that can do an awful lot for online reputation, because that'll tend to rise to the surface of any search results as well as influencing reviews. So that can make a big difference in your online reputation as well. So that's something oftentimes that just sort of gets overlooked when people are thinking about the technical pieces of why rankings are the way they are. So with that, happy to take a look at any specific situations people have. If you want to put them in the chat, or we can just turn mics on for people who might want to. Jacob, whatever sort of works well for you.
Yeah, usually if you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat and then I will relay them to you, Josh. I do have just a couple questions lined up. You gave us a ton of great information. What would be the first step? Say people are kind of dip their toes in all of this, but what would be the first one to go all in on, I guess? Like, would it be revamping SEO? Would it be working on your Wikipedia page?
So a lot of the answers are generally, it depends. Most companies are probably doing okay with the things that they need to do for SEO. If they want to improve the rankings, it tends to be something that needs to be a concerted effort. I would say generally There's a bunch of sort of low-hanging fruit in terms of if you haven't claimed or started a Google My Business page, and you're the type of business that has a physical location, that's a really great starting point, especially given how much they're showing up. Like if I'm just searching for locksmith or locksmith near me, these reviews are all coming right out of the Google My Business thing. It's influencing who's showing up here. So for smaller businesses, I would say making sure you have that set up and working is really important. You can answer questions, you can do posts, and if your hours of operation unfortunately have to keep changing, you can update it here, and it ripples just about everywhere. If you're a bigger company, I would definitely take a look at your Wikipedia presence and see if someone's managing that and see if it lines up with what you would like to have there. And then the other thing I would do is just do a Google search on the name of your company and maybe sort of take notes or benchmark that just to see if it changes over time and see if there are any results that you really want to influence.
Okay. We have a question from Ali Holcher. What's your favorite way to monitor news hits for your clients? So I guess, do you guys use a CRM or to monitor your clients' page views or what traffic they're getting?
Yeah, so there are a couple ways to approach it. A lot of times, Google Analytics is sort of the backbone of everything we do analytically to see how much traffic is coming from any given source. So a lot of times we'll keep an eye on analytics to see what new referrals are coming in. So if there's a new news story that's been out there and sending traffic, it pops up in the referrals or the referring sites within Google Analytics. And then if I'm thinking about SEO factors, Moz.com has sort of a monitoring tool that'll show new links that are showing up and impacting pure SEO. I know there are a number of sort of PR tools that are out there that are maybe more specific if press is specifically your focus. Another sort of little hack is just looking at Google News and seeing if anything new shows up. If it makes it into Google News, that's usually a clue it's being treated as press and is fairly significant.
All right. I did have a question about, I know you talked about backlinking and how it's great to have references to your site. Do affiliate links like Amazon links or like promo code links, do those kind of work for that, or is it something a little bit different?
Those really don't work for that. It tends to be more if I have a site and I link to another one. So let's say I have the top 10 best keys and locksmiths here. So this is a Yelp page, and Yelp is going to link out to each of these different locksmiths. So this counts as a good link for, John's Locksmith Services and Al's Lock Shop. So that's where it comes in handy. So if you, had the AAF Birmingham page, and then you had links from 5 other chapters, then the national chapter, then there was a newspaper story about you, and you were also in a college newsletter for a business school, all of those would be links that would be building up the rankings for the AAF page.
All right. Sounds great. And I just had an idea about, you were talking about with Fiverr,
Mm-hmm.
being able to pay somebody to do something that's more of an expert in a certain area.
Mm-hmm.
Could you potentially get somebody that's like a Wikipedia expert off of Fiverr and get them to write your Wikipedia page? Is that something that you could do?
You could do that. You probably would want to try more on Upwork, and you probably would want to make sure that You had some Wikipedia experience, and because Wikipedia has a lot of really counterintuitive rules where basically marketing, PR, advertising, folks almost intuitively do the wrong thing um, because the rules are written from a very different perspective. If you actually have questions about updating a Wikipedia page, I'll put my contact info right up here, and I'm always happy to just respond to an email and sort of point you in the right direction. One of the challenges with Wikipedia is oftentimes people just jump in to edit their page and then are confused by the things that happen afterwards.
Okay, so you could potentially jump into your Wikipedia page and make it worse
Yes.
just by not knowing what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah, you could get banned from Wikipedia and have all of your edits reverted pretty quickly if you go about it the wrong way.
Okay. Allie has another question. How would you go about encouraging your customers to leave reviews? Because I know it can't be like, what do they say, pro bono, where you like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I know Google is kind of against that. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, the answer is it depends what kind of field you're in. You know, I think probably Google, you know, it does its thing about paid reviews because it's trying to shoot down very, very big networks of things. And oftentimes you have something like a local restaurant where they've been, you know, terrified to even mention the idea of reviews because they've heard sort of the Google propaganda. I think, especially if you're looking at Yelp or some other community sites, generally you would want to ask for a review when you've delighted a customer, whatever that point might be. And oftentimes you'll see people trying to do something with reciprocity to sort of create the feeling of an obligation to do something. Like if you write a review, we're going to donate to a particular charity, or we'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card, or here is a Starbucks gift card, please leave us a review.
yeah.
So a lot of it oftentimes depends on your organization and how it approaches things, along with what the rules are in a particular situation. The original idea behind review sites like Yelp was you as the restaurant owner don't need to do anything. Just out of the goodness of their heart, people on the internet will leave reviews and probably be nice and tell you what's going on. Like many things relying on the goodness of the internet, there are a few flaws in that argument. So I would definitely encourage you to think through how you're doing it, and think about whether some of these guidelines from whatever review site you're on are intended to help you or help the platform itself.
All right. Well, I think that's all the questions I had, and all the ones I see in the chat. So I'm going to throw it back over to Lisa, and she'll close us out. Thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you, Josh. And we appreciate all that great information. I've taken notes, so I'll be giving it a look again later. So we just thank everybody for being here today. And remember, you've got your membership dues coming in and also the 10 awards coming up. So really would love to get some nominations in for that to really thank the people who work behind the scenes and get things done for us. So y'all have a great afternoon, and I look forward to seeing y'all next time.